Hello and welcome to Screencast 14 for the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland Introduction to Vectorworks. I'm going to start this screencast here from where I left off in the previous Screencast 13, where I created this shape using the trim tool. What I didn't mention was that when I created the trim tool, the polygon shape here isn't a closed polygon. And it also has this line, this trimming line. So there's two options I could do. I could, if I want to change this into a closed polygon, which is a kind of normal state for these kind of objects, I could either close it here and then be sure to get rid of the line, the extra line, because all I did was I closed this object. The line's a separate object. I've still got two lines there, so be careful with that. Or if I select both objects there, you can see it says two objects, and then I modify compose, it will take those two objects and now turn it into a single polygon. So worth remembering those two options there. Be careful with closing the polygon and leaving the extra line there. That's kind of the way you get rogue extra artifacts in your drawing. So we're going to look at a couple more tools: clip, offset, and attribute mapping. These are starting to get into very specialist tools. Doesn't mean to say you can skip over these. It's just that they are probably not ones that we use a lot. So the clip tool, first of all, there's a clip tool there. Looks like an eraser, to be honest. I'm not sure why it's got that icon. Clip tool there. We have modes here. Clip tool removes the area inside of the marquee. So if I draw, sorry, it's warning me that I need to select a shape first before I clip it. So I can remove an area inside of the marquee. Now the marquee there, sorry, click something wrong, is a rectangle and a polyline and a circle. So I could draw a circle there and it removes the area inside the circle. Now if you were drawing, for example, large letters, like your name, and you had a P or an A or an O or something, and you wanted to remove a part of a polygon, there you go, there's a simple way of doing it. If I went to the rectangle mode there, sorry, the clip tool and the rectangle mode, I could remove a chunk of the side using the rectangle mode. So it clips out the area inside of the marquee on that first mode. Second one is it removes the area outside of the marquee. So this is a kind of an odd one. So if I did the rectangle there, it will keep the things that were inside the rectangle and removes the stuff outside. And the third option there will just split it. So it kind of does the same thing again, but doesn't remove it. It just takes it into separate pieces. So if I can now split that off. It's impossible to tell you how useful this is with your drawing until you start actually trying to do things. It could be super useful, just remember it's there. It could be an incredibly powerful tool. Offset. So I'm going to get rid of that and just use them as this simple. And again, I'm going to use the fit to objects. Let's get rid of that and these other bits and pieces. So that's the only objects. Again, seem to have lost my drawing, but there it is. Click that little fit to objects and it brings the only object I've got left into the center of the screen. So I'm just being a little unaware of the size of the object. Again, I can see the numbers on the top. Again, it's hundreds long. I could use the ruler there to kind of click and it tells me it's 491 long. I'm just being aware of that because the next tool, the offset tool, I kind of need to know numbers. So the offset tool there, essentially it's going to place a second copy of the object either inside or outside this shape at a distance that I specify. So that's why I needed to know the numbers. It's kind of like the chamfer and the fillet tools in the fact that if nothing seems to have happened, you may be dealing with an offset of 1 millimeter over a room of 7 meters. So let's do an obvious offset. Let's do something like 50. And the options here, we're going to offset by distance mode, and we're going to duplicate an offset. So if I click on the outside of the object there, it's made another object 50 millimeters bigger all the way around it, and because it's the second object I've drawn, it's placed it on top of the first. Now if we remember back, so this one catches people out because it looks like the object itself has been made bigger, but it's not. I don't know if you saw a little trace of it there. If I kind of hover the mouse across, the dotted lines there indicate that this shape is still there, but behind. So I can use my modify and send to back as we did before, and then that's placed the larger object behind the smaller object. And again, we did our clip tools, remember back when we did modify, so I can clip surface, and that's me chopped out the middle of that. Again, remember that the shape remains, it doesn't get rid of it, so I need to delete that, and that shape now is a chopped out rectangle of some description. I'll go through that again. This time I'll choose, we'll use the offset tool. There it is there. Make a slightly smaller because I've made a smaller rectangle, so I'll do it 25. And again, we're going to offset by distance and duplicate an offset, which is the one that I'm demoing here. There is offset original, in which case the object would resize itself. I'll just demo that in a second, let's not get confused. So I'll click inside this time, and it's placed the second object, the second rectangle 50 millimeters smaller than the first one inside. That could be useful for doing walls or thicknesses of framing of wooden objects, for example. If we knew that we drew the outside of the flat, and then we knew that the whole flat was made of 3-inch timber, we could offset another rectangle 75 millimeters inside it, and that would give us a frame, a quick and easy frame. I'll just go back once more, and the second option there, rather than duplicate an offset, was I want 25 millimeters inside, and that's, rather than duplicating, it's offset the whole shape. Rather than duplicating it, it's just made the whole shape 25 millimeters smaller. So we've got offset by distance, duplicate and offset. So these options in here are pretty much the same as the modes there, not too complicated. So the attribute mapping tool is the last one that I said we would look at. So rather than the fill, I'm going to use a hatch there. So there's a hatch, kind of I think it's an architectural thing. It might be, that might mean something to some people. Anyway, with the hatch fill, it's a little big. It's not really showing what I want to show. So the attribute mapping tool, again, I'll just move this to the center of the screen. You might see that there's a big extra box appeared with some blue handles around it. That's kind of the size of that hatch. So if I want to make the hatch smaller, I can drag the corners of the tool down and place the hatch. So I'm kind of placing the hatch within the window of that rectangle. I'm not sure how useful this is. It's just worth knowing that it's there. And for hatches, we tend not to use hatches too much, but I'm going through every single one of these tools, and it's just another thing to remember, another thing to be aware that's there. I'll do another one just to show what I did again. So rather than solid, hatch, choose a different hatch. That's aluminium there. There's all sorts of wood surfaces, wood flooring. So just choose that, select that wood flooring there. Right, so that's the wood flooring. It's not particularly useful because it's not fitting in the box particularly well. Choose the attribute mapping tool and then grab the, there we go, and we'll place it in the middle so that the, maybe not place it there. There we go. Make it angled. So you can play around with all sorts of things in here. Maybe not massively useful for what we're doing, but worth knowing that it's there. So that was clip, offset, and attribute mapping. Okay, don't play with the tools anyway, so you know that they're there, just in case. See you in the next one.